So with that, I'd like to get started and welcome our guest, 2017 marketing alumni, Shelby Herndon. Shelby was a CSU athletics intern with me back in the day when we were in school here at CSU and has worked professionally in athletics marketing ever since. Shelby received a Master's of Science in Sports Administration at UNC and then has since been involved in collegiate marketing, athletic marketing at Louisiana Tech, CSU Pueblo, and is now the Director of Marketing and Social Media for the Western Athletic Conference. So amazing experience, and I'm so excited to get to chat today. So Shelby, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with some questions. Can you please tell us a little bit about what you do? What does the Director of Sports Marketing even mean?
So a lot of my job is it's all encompassing. So I monitor a lot of our social media in terms of when we have games going on and tweeting out final scores, but it's also a lot of behind the scenes type of stuff of ordering signage for championships, doing various graphics. Again, most of our work that we do leading up to the regular season, is all of our championships. So we currently have 20 championships that we host at various different schools, and we ship out, and we have about 3 or 4 of us on a team that go to each different championship. So it's a lot of making sure that we're not only highlighting our conference, but being able to highlight the student athletes well.
Wow, nice. So how often do you get to travel? Like, you have all these different conferences. What does that look like interacting with the schools versus working for the conference itself?
Yeah, so working at a school was different because we had all the different sports that we had to highlight and different athletes in that sense. Now with the conference side, we still have all the different sports, but it's now spread across 13 different schools as well. So as far as championships, usually last year I went to women's soccer, basketball, and outdoor track. I think this year I'm supposed to go to men's soccer, and everyone goes to basketball, and then probably a handful of others. But it's been really cool to travel to places I haven't necessarily been to and kind of see what all these different student athletes experience on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, that's awesome. So lots of travel balanced with working remote versus in person in your office. I know you were just saying that your office is moving to Texas. What's that look like?
Yeah, so our currently we have about 7 to 6 split of schools that are not in Texas versus schools that are. So our schools range across from Washington State, California, Arizona, Utah, and then New Mexico and Texas. So we just got a new commissioner back in October, November. So he just thought that it would be easier for us to be able to travel to more championships if we move down to the Arlington area. So I'm a big Broncos fan, but now I get to look out and see Jerry World from my office. So that'll be fun.
Well, Colorado will miss you, but I'm sure Texas will welcome you with big arms. So what does sports marketing entail? Here at CSU, we have external partners like Learfield that work with the big sponsors like Chick-fil-A, Bank of Colorado, big game day promotions. But then we have internal marketing teams within schools. Can you explain how those work together in the different areas within sports marketing departments?
Yeah, so we have, at least at the WAC, we have a sponsorship department, which is called Van Wagner. So very similar to Learfield, where they will go out and sell the sponsorships that we will then fulfill at championships, whether that's through PA reads or during broadcast. But yeah, also internally we have several sponsored elements that we will post on social, like WAC Top Play brought to you by Geico, All Access brought to you by Adidas. So we have several different things that we'll fulfill both during the year and at championships.
Oh, that's awesome. What does that look like working with those teams? Is there a set team that works specifically with that, or is that within your role? How does that look?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the liaison between the WAC and Van Wagner, but we also we have a championships department. So they will also implement what we need in terms of, I put basketball as the biggest one because they have the most in-game sponsors and outside signage outside the arena. So it's kind of a joint effort between myself and our championships department.
All the things that come together on game day, with the lighting and the fireworks going off and the announcers and the scripted, thinking back to our athletic intern days, almost everything that was said during a game day was within a script. Is that still like how things are going? Like when fans go to a game, they might not realize that everything is basically scripted. Is that still accurate?
More so for basketball or anything that's neutral site, and that's kind of part of it that I miss going from the school to the conference is I did a lot more operations stuff with the school, like what we did. But on the conference side, it's more up to the host schools. They handle a lot of the marketing on that side, but anything that's neutral or hosted by the WAC, so like indoor track or basketball, we still do some of the scripting, although I know for at least our basketball tournament, the scripting is outsourced. So we'll still do some of the operations, but someone else handles the script stuff because we're a pretty small staff. We only have 16 of us. So definitely not as large as CSU.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting, because like before I had the experience being an athletics and marketing intern, I didn't realize that like being a fan going to these games, mostly everything is scripted on a big fat stack of papers, and the announcers all have their earpieces. Just like a little tidbit of sports marketing for you there. Going off that, can you tell us a little bit about your career path? You've moved from university to conference, intern, all the way up to director. What's the typical career path look like in your field?
So I remember when I was a senior, I had zero intentions of going to grad school, but our old boss, Nick Popplewell, said that if I wanted to get anywhere in athletics, that I should probably think about getting a master's because it's getting more and more common for people to have one. So that's when I decided to do my master's at UNC, which in hindsight, I think I would have tried. If I decided I was going to go to school earlier, I would have gone for a graduate assistantship, but I didn't because I was a little bit late on the boat. But I still continued to volunteer with UNC, so it ended up working out fine. Took a post-grad internship at Louisiana Tech, where if you're in athletics to make money, you're in the wrong field. I was working for like $1,200 a month, but that was a really cool opportunity to go do that, and it was almost like being back at college because they used a lot of people in athletics. If you're not doing a GA ship, they use interns where you're not paid a whole lot, but you get the experience where you get that stepping stone you need to move on. So yeah, I worked at Tech for 2 years, one of those being COVID, which was challenging in its own right, but good prep for the rest of it going forward. I had the opportunity to come back home to work at CSU Pueblo for a little bit, but it was in ticketing, which is not really where my passions were at. But then I got the chance to come to the WAC, and it's been a blast ever since. It's really going from the school to the conference you have more free time, but it's a different kind of free time. Like it's almost like an accordion of when you get championships, you're real busy, and then you can kind of get a little bit more relaxed. But I'm really happy going into the second year because I finally feel like I'm not behind the 8 ball. So I've been having a blast at the conference.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there with if you're in higher education for the money, that is definitely the wrong field. But sometimes it can be stagnant, and like there's higher turnover on teams because that you can't move up to that manager or director role without somebody leaving before you. So unfortunately, that's just a reality of higher education. And I think it's important for students to know and understand. So we see a lot of students in our office, either in their first year or second year, coming in to meet with a career counselor, and they say, I really love sport. I want to be in the industry. I think, what advice would you share? Any, and in your experience, what internships are like? Are they typically paid, unpaid? Can they do job shadows? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of internships are unpaid, but you can also find some good paid ones. And again, they may not be like the highest pay grade, but it's worth it in the end because it's what you need to advance. Job shadows are great. I remember during my senior year, I shadowed at DU, Colorado College, and Air Force, which was really my excuse to go see 3 different hockey games. But it was really cool to just reach out to anyone in that department and say, hey, I really want to know more about, the marketing side, or, I mean, it's even applicable to other aspects of business if you wanted to go work in compliance or the business office, but just reaching out and making those connections and doing those internships is really a good foot in the door. I know like CSU, I mean, that's where I saw it was on social where they said, hey, we're looking for interns, and just taking that first step and getting your foot in the door is really what's going to help you succeed.
Yeah. And I know our CSU or CSU athletics marketing department still does that same internship. We have students that go and do football, men's basketball, all game day operations. So super great internship if you're looking for experienced students. We have one here on campus, and I know their hiring is kind of random, but we'll be posting in our newsletter when they do have those internships available. So really great to get your foot in the door there. Thinking back to your time at CSU here, Shelby, Did anything you do, like obviously the internship, but coursework, clubs and orgs, anything really impact or stand out, still affect what you're doing professionally today?
I would say the biggest impact, I took Dr. Donovan's sports marketing class, which was at 8 a.m. Maybe they've changed that. I don't know. That was a great course. He brought in a lot of different speakers and taught us all different aspects. And I think that was when I took his course, it was like, all right, I know I'm in the right field. This is what I want to keep doing for a career. So that was a great class if you guys can get into it. But also, I think some of the classes that I used to see is like, oh, this is just because we need to get our, requirements in with accounting and finance. A lot of that stuff, while it seems menial when you're taking it, it's good to pay attention somewhat because you never know when it will come in handy again. Like during like the capstone marketing class, those business plans we have to do, you'll always have to keep doing, even in the professional world, SWOT analysis and keep using those business principles that you were taught. So I think CSU did a great job of preparing me for like everything the world had to throw at me.
Yes, I believe we do still have that sports marketing class. I don't know if it's taught by Donovan still, but yeah, definitely worth checking out. We don't have an official sports marketing major, like it's the marketing concentration, but you can definitely go in spurts with that and learning from those classes. And yes, you don't ever stop doing what you learn in business. I wish there was more like finance and stuff myself. So Shelby, transitioning from college to the professional world, what was one thing you wish you knew before doing it?
I think really establishing the connections, as cheesy as it sounds, like the networking and the people you meet are going to be so important because you never know who anybody else knows. I still keep in contact with like Bryn Davis, who works in CSU athletics. And a lot of people, even, random connections that you may meet at job fairs or people that come talk to your class. If it's really something that you're interested in, keep that connection because you never know when they might be like, hey, I have a job that I think you'd be great for, or I know this person who's hiring. So just keeping those little connections in mind and connecting with people on LinkedIn and following them on your Twitter, if you have a professional Twitter. I think that's really the biggest takeaway I have.
Yes, speaking of Bryn Davis and CSU athletics, they typically come to our marketing meetup. So marketing students that are on right now and going to listen to this recording in the future, keep an eye out for a marketing meetup this spring. Typically we do them every spring. It's basically like professional speed networking. So lots of great opportunities within marketing are at that as well. And kind of going off of that, if you had one piece of advice for our students here attending live, as well as that will listen to this in the future, what would it be?
I kind of touched on it before, but go get if you want to work in sports marketing, go get your master's. It's not fun at the time, but it's going to put you miles above anybody who doesn't, because as more and more people have them, you're going to want it. And again, it's a lot of coursework too that's still going to prepare you for a professional career in marketing, especially in sports. And again, if you can get a GA-ship, that's great. It'll pay for all, if not most of your school. But if you can't, that's also not the end of the world. Just keep trying, being resilient, and get your foot in the door, and it'll lead to good things.
Can you touch on the difference between just your master's and a GA-ship, like a grad assistantship?
Yeah. So when I was doing my master's, I was just volunteering. I was more of still doing the kind of stuff that we did as interns. They did give me a little bit more responsibility. Like I got to run softball game days, but because I was a master's student. But when you're a GA, I mean, you really get a lot more responsibilities of where you're almost doing school part-time and your job nearly full-time. So it's definitely a lot more responsibility, but it looks great on a resume and you do get paid for your school and sometimes a stipend. So that's really the way you can go. And it's a cool opportunity of like, I went to UNC because it was close to home and convenient, but a lot of times these GA-ships are hiring at schools all over the country, schools you might not even heard of. So a good chance to broaden your horizons as well and get out and explore the world.
Totally. Super. I've known a couple of our GAs here at CSU, and it's amazing experience. They get to travel with the team. They get a little bit of a stipend, but their master's pretty much is paid for by the university. So definitely, it sounds like if you want to work in sports marketing, that is a good way to go.
Mm-hmm.
which is great to know for now. I know we have a couple Business 100 students on the call. For those students that, have a few more years, looking into that and finding places that you might be interested in, sports you might be interested in. Yeah, really to get your foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I know I want to be cognizant of time. We might have time for one more question here, but I wanted to open it up to all the audience that is here live. If there are any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, send it in the chat, however you would like. We'll have some time for audience questions.
Hi, Shelby. I was curious, so you touched a little bit on the sports marketing class that you took and then a lot of the experiences that you had at CSU and then beyond as well. I'm curious if you came into CSU kind of knowing that sports marketing was what you wanted to do, or if it was all the experiences that you had along the way that were more like impactful.
I'm going to be honest with you. When I got, at least even up to my senior year, I had no intention of going and getting a master's. I was like, I'm probably going to do the marketing and go corporate and just do what, quote, everyone else does, 9 to 5. But yeah, it was the start of that internship, because I started out in social media, and then before I met Patty and another kid, I don't know if you remember Lawrence, they were more on the operational side, and I was like, that seems way more fun than what I'm doing. So it really was kind of a combination of the classes and the experience, and just talking to our mentors and saying like, yeah, you can do this for a job. Obviously I'm here doing this as a job, you could too. So it was kind of all of that combined that I was like, yeah, I should do this. I should look into this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shelby, you just touched on that timing of the 9 to 5, sports marketing and, game times are at 8:00 p.m. Sometimes they're on Saturdays. What does that work-life balance look like for you? Managing game days, and it might be different now that you're at the conference, but even as your experience with the school, what does that look like?
It is definitely, I think athletics, and not that this doesn't apply to any other field too, but athletics is almost like a 24/7 job where, yeah, you're at least in our field of like monitoring social and all that stuff, but like game days at Louisiana Tech, I would show up like 6 hours before the game, and then you're there all day. But it comes as a reward too, because if you're really passionate about sports, yeah, I'm on the sidelines all game, but I also get to watch the game. Like I always say, oh, my job isn't just watching sports, but some days it is. And if it's really something you like to, those game days, and even though you're there for long hours, they don't feel long because you're doing something you like. So.
Yeah. Wear comfortable shoes.
Shoes are very important. Bring extra socks, bring lots of layers, because some days you just never know. Especially in Colorado.
Great advice, that you might not understand, Victoria, I see your question here. I just wanted to double check the name of the sports marketing professor. Ramwed says the only professor for that class is Todd Donovan. I believe that's who you said it was, Shelby, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. Yeah. So if there's openings in that class, highly suggest getting into it. That's one that I wish that I had taken as a marketing major here back in the day. I feel old.
Yeah, no, that's I think Todd's first name is like Douglas or something, but he goes by Todd. So but yeah, no, that was the class I took. And I don't know if he teaches it every semester, if it's just the one section. But I know it might be tough, especially like if you're sophomore, even junior. It was a lot of seniors in that class, just because it was since we got priority registration. So if you don't get it the first time, keep trying. It'll be worth it.
Great advice. I just got another one through the chat here. It says, what excites you about your job?
Excites me about my job. I think really highlighting the student athletes. I mean, speaking for myself, I was a very average like high school athlete, and I was not a college athlete, but being able to highlight these kids and their success and what they're able to do is so exciting. And I live a little bit vicariously through them. But, we have moments like an outdoor track where all 8 of our top 8 women runners all beat the WAC record. Like that's amazing. That's something that's really cool to highlight. When we get cool plays, or when people break even their own or school records, like that's the stuff that I love to highlight. Stuff like Instagram takeovers that we do with them, seeing things through their eyes. That's what I like to see.
That's awesome. Sounds pretty exciting to me. Any other questions from the audience here? Any brave souls? Well, I guess, Shelby, I am curious myself. What does like highlighting these student athletes, with I'm gonna butcher the name, like the brand deals that student athletes are now eligible to do. What does that look like? Is that something you work with? Or is that school specific or student specific? What does that look like?
It's a little bit more school specific because I know each
Okay.
different school has like, some of our schools use open doors, some of them use influencer. But I'm sure it will become more of because we just had we brought back our in-person media days. We had one at football where we have photos of students. I don't think our schools have asked for those yet in terms of like for influencer or open doors because they're not really, game photos or anything like that. But I know that our compliance department still has to deal with a lot of NIL deals that they have to come not only through the school, but through us. So it's an evolving market for sure. And I think you'll see a little bit more disparity with schools that are bigger or have more boosters versus those that don't.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely times are changing, it seems like, with the rise of TikTok and Instagram reels and student athletes like getting so famous, and how that can translate to compensation and how that works within a school. All parts of sports marketing, I'm sure.
So many of our student athletes have like more followers than we do. So we're trying to get there.
How are you capitalize on that? That's great. Cool. Well, if there are no more questions from the audience, we'll go ahead and end our recording here. But just wanted to say thank you, Shelby, for taking the time to be on here. We will release this recording tomorrow on Handshake as part of our podcast series. So thanks again for being here.
All right, thanks for having me, and I hope y'all enjoy college because it goes fast.
Way too fast. Way too fast. Yes. So thank you so much, and we will see you later. Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
thanks.